The first review is posted already on YouTube, so if you missed that, you're welcome to go and watch that or rewatch that to if you need help with setting some things up. I do have a question here, so I'll answer it first. Um, so as far as rounding rules, I'm gonna go back up here to the rounding rules. Um, so they always say like you're kind of looking to have two digits in your answer. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean always that you're going to have two digits. Like if you have an answer of 3, that's your answer. Don't put 3.0, okay? But if you have an answer of zero point 0.5, then you do want to write your answer as 0.5, okay? You want to make sure so those you need to have your leading zero. What you don't want to have is a trailing or lagging zero, right? So if you find yourself writing like 1.50 or 0.50, that is incorrect. You do not want that zero at the end, but you do want the zero at the beginning or in front of the decimal if it's a number less than 1. Now, there's two things to know as far as rounding rules. When you have a number, a volume, or a number, like let's say we're doing like pounds to kilograms, you want to round to the nearest tenth. Okay. So if you get an answer of let's say 1.25, so it's a number greater than 1, you're gonna look at the hundredths place to tell you either to round up or don't round. Okay. So if it's 1.25, then you will round to 1.3. If it's 4 or fewer, then you would not round. You would just leave it, you would just drop those numbers and leave it at 1.2. Okay. If you have a volume that's less than 1, such as, this is actually a bad example. Let's say but the 0.969. Let me give you a better example, one that you might actually see. So let's say it's something like 0.275. Okay. So what we want to pay attention to is we want to have both these digits accounted for. Okay. So we're going to look at this, which is the thousandth place, to tell us what to do with this number. So we would round that to 0.28. Okay. If that number were 0.172, then we would look again at that. We want to keep those two numbers. We're going to look here, and if it's 4 or fewer, then we're just going to drop it and then leave the number as that. Okay, so 0.17. So that's your rounding rules. This applies for typically for when we're going from pounds to kilograms. If we're going from and we're calculating like a medication. So medication in milliliters. This also applies for milliliters per hour. So when we're doing that now, if you're doing just a standard, just going metric to metric. So let's say I'm just converting milliliters to liters or milligrams to grams or micrograms to milligrams, or vice versa. Any of those things, when you're just doing that basic conversion, so basic conversions, do not round. So if you get an answer, and I'll show you in just a second, I'll go down and reiterate that. But if you're just doing the standard, just converting this to this, do not round. You do round, or you may need to round if you're solving for a medication. So let's look at some examples of that real quick. So here, let's look at, I already did these, right? So I took 75 milligrams, we converted that to grams, and we get an answer of point or 0.075. Okay. That is your answer. Do not round that number. Okay. That is the correct answer. Same thing here. We have 125 micrograms to milligrams. My answer is 0.125. That is the answer. Do not round that to 0.13. It will be marked wrong if you round it. You do not round your basic unit or metric to metric conversions. Okay. Do not round those. You will round though if we need to, in like the example I did here. If I take my 131-pound patient, divide by 2.2, and I'm going to get 59.545454, you do round that to the nearest tenth, 59.5. Some students, and I don't know where this came from, but some students have been taught to round it to the nearest whole number. As far as I know, you don't do that. However, saying that in all reality is if you have a patient that's over 120 pounds and they're an adult, it's really not going to change the medication like mechanism. Like it would, and then in reality, you might even just round up or use like a different variable. But when we're in the CCAC dosage calc math bubble, we do want to round to the nearest tenth when we're doing those types of things. Um, let's say, let me look for another example just to kind of show you um, where we might have something like that. Uh, give me 1 second. I want to give you another example. Okay, so let's say I have a question like this. So I'm going to create a separate question. Actually, it doesn't matter because you don't necessarily have this. Well, here, we'll duplicate this question. And we'll say, let's say instead of 45 milligrams, this said 65 milligrams. All right. So I'm going to use the same label information. So I'm going to take my 65 milligram order. And let's say I'm doing ordered over available. So 65 over the 15 milligrams times the 1 ml. So when I get 65 divided by 15, I should get some sort of a decimal answer. Yeah, I get 4.33333333. Okay. So if I get an answer where you have a bunch of these, right, that's your clue that you need to round it. And you would just round it to 4.3 milliliters. Okay. So again, round to the nearest tenth. If you get an answer that's like, 4.275, then you're going to round that to 4.3. Okay. So it ends up being the same answer. So you're still going to round. You're going to look at, the place before the decimal or before the tenths place and decide what to do. Okay. The rest of these numbers really don't factor in. So it's not like you need to worry about like if it's a 5, 5.1 or 5.1, 5.2 or anything like that. If it's 5 or greater, round up. If it's 4 or fewer, don't round it. Just drop the numbers. All right. So last time we went through a couple things. This is something you didn't have to do the last time you took this test because you had it on Blackboard. So I do want to show you this real quick too, so we don't forget to include it, because this is a question you might see on your paper test. It says that we're supposed to mark a syringe, but we want to mark a syringe in a very specific way for our dosage calc test. So it tells us that we have 10 units of regular insulin and then 40 units of NPH. And we want to indicate that um, on our paper here. Okay. So the first thing it says is select syringe A or B. Okay. So if I'm looking at my syringes A or B, the only units I see on here are CCs, but the units I see here, I do see CCs, but I also see the actual units, which is what insulin is measured in. Okay, so insulin is always going to be administered in units. It's never going to be, at least from my knowledge, even for patients, it's not going to be measured in milliliters. It's going to be measured in units. So I'm going to choose syringe B, and I'm going to mark it. So I wrote in, so like the what I have highlighted here would not be written on your test. So I wrote it in. What are we drawing up first? 10 units of regular first, and then what's our total? 10 plus 40 is 50. Okay. So I'm going to show you how to mark this because the marking can be a little bit seem weird. But the first thing is I would just go ahead and just mark the total because that one's easy, right? So we know that that's total. Now, the next question is where does the insulin mark go? Instinctively, you want to put it on the 10 because you drew it up. But what they're asking you is, let's just say the syringe and then physics didn't apply and we filled up the syringe, where would the 10 units of regular insulin be? The 10 units of insulin would be closest to the 50. So what they're asking you to do is mark and indicate that this distance right here is your regular insulin. So this is where the 10 units of regular insulin would be. The remainder of this is the NPH. Now, for those of you who have actually done this procedure, or if you even just watched the like videos on YouTube, as soon as you draw up the regular, you just draw up the 10, then you draw up the NPH. When you're drawing it up, it all mixes together. So there is no like separation, but this is how they want you to mark it for this particular type of question. I posted in the OneDrive shared folder. As soon as you open it, it says like mixing insulin, and there's an image, and it's from a textbook, and it shows you exactly how they want you to mark it. So if you, the only thing that would change is the numbers here, right? So maybe the total is 80, regular's 30, and the NPH is 50. You would just change your marks accordingly. Okay. So like I usually just take 10 away from the total, or I would just mark where the 40 units would be, or the 50 units if it's the if we're doing the 80 unit mechanism. But that's how you would label that syringe. So don't kill the messenger. I'm just telling you how they want you to do it. I'm not a big fan of this particular question. I actually prefer what you guys did for the Blackboard version of this test, where you just dropped your indicator on the correct syringe at the total mark. All right, let's do some more of these flow rate questions. I started tackling these on Thursday. That is correct. You're not supposedly drawing up the regular insulin first. You are drawing up the regular insulin first. Yeah. So you want it. That's why you want to. That's why they're asked, or that's why the textbook has you mark it in that particular manner. Yeah. Okay. So it looks like I worked through the majority of these already, the flow rate questions. So if you weren't here last time, I've already worked through these, and these are on the initial YouTube review. So let me see what else I have here that I might want to go through. Here, let's work through these two questions because these are your two-step questions, and I think I recall saying that I would work through these today because I didn't get to them last time. So these are considered your like in your blueprint, you'll have some two-step calculations. And what that means is we have to account for the kilograms. And so we have to account for the patient's weight. Okay. And so step one is converting the patient's weight and then to kilograms, and then multiplying by the kilogram dosage to find out what the loading dose would be in milligrams. Okay. So let's just do that real quick. So I'm going to take my patient weight of 176 pounds, and I'm just going to divide by 2.2. And I believe that gives me 80, but I'm going to double check. 176 divided by 2.2 is 80 kilograms. So 80 kilograms. So the question is, for the loading dose, how many milligrams? Okay, so that's all they're asking you to do. So it says the loading dose is this 15 milligrams per kilogram. Then it tells you to start them on 300 milligrams per day. I don't need to worry about that for this question because the question is just asking me, what is the loading dose? So I'm going to take the 80 kilograms times the 15 milligrams per kilogram, and this will give me my answer. So it's 2 steps. Patient's weight in pounds to kilograms, step 1. Step 2 is multiply by the patient's weight in kilograms by the loading dose. So 80 times 15 gives me a loading dose of 1,200 milligrams. So how might this change? You might see this change in regards to um, what the patient's weight is and the what the order is. Sometimes they'll add an extra step. Let's say we know that Dilantin is available in 100 milligrams per um, per milliliter. So let's say we know that. Let's say that's a given. Then I'm just going to put this in a different color just so we can see. So I'm just saying, like, let's pretend that there's 100 milligrams per milliliter, and then we would just convert this to the milliliters. So this question, I'm just adding this as an extra step in the event that they gave you the medication information, and then your answer would just be the 12 milliliters. Okay, so this is just kind of like an aside. If we knew, so I'll just put a big if here. If we knew the medication was 100 milligrams per milliliter, then that's the information you would put in to calculate it, which would create your second, technically a third step, but it's still considered a secondary step. Let's see here. Let's look at this next one here. So in this one, we have a couple pieces of information. We have 500 micrograms listed. We have 0.05 per milliliter listed, and we want to know how many milliliters of this medication to administer. So what do we do? Well, first of all, and this is where some students get hung up, we can't do anything with micrograms and milligrams. I need to convert micrograms to milligrams or milligrams to micrograms. It's really up to you. You get to decide which way you want to go. So I'm going to show you both ways just for extra, because it's additional practice. So let's say I'm taking my 0.05 milligrams per milliliter, and I'm going to convert that to micrograms. So I'm just going to move my decimal point over 1, 2, 3. So there would be a 0 here. And so this would become 50 micrograms per milliliter. So that's one iteration that we can use. Or I could take the 500 micrograms, follow the same procedure, except I'm going to move to the left. Okay. And then that would become 0.5 milligrams. Okay. So either way, I can do that problem. So let's say I do it this way. So I'm going to take my order, and then let's say I'm doing order over available, 50 per milliliter, and that'll equal 10 milliliters. Or if I just do that's fine. 0, I take my order over my available, which was the 0.05 milligrams per milliliter, and I'm going to get the same answer. So whenever I tell you that there's like more than one way to answer a question, this is what I'm getting at. So if your mind instinctively says, "Well, I want to convert micrograms to milligrams," great, do that. If your mind says, "I want to convert milligrams to microgram," great, do that. Just make sure that they're in the same units so that they cross out, right? So micrograms crosses out, milligrams crosses out. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to cross out. What I don't want to do is I don't want to try and say 500 micrograms. And this is what a lot of students do when they miss this question, is they'll write this, but you can't cross these out. So then your answer would be microgram, milliliter per milligram, which should drive you nuts and make you want to scream because nothing was able to be canceled out. And I know not all of you are doing that where you're canceling out units, but that's the benefit of showing your units and writing them out, because then you can see, hey, something doesn't make sense here. And then you get a number like, because 500 divided by 0.05, you get 10,000. When have you ever administered, because you know that you're looking for how many milliliters, when have you ever administered 10,000 milliliters of a medication? Okay. That doesn't make any sense. Okay. So that's your indication and your clue. So if you have a number that's really, really small or a number that's really, really big, there's a good chance that you didn't convert milligrams, micrograms, grams, whatever it happens to be. So just double check your work if you ever run into that. So I'm just going to put a big, um, just kind of circle this and then put a big red X. Don't do that. Okay. All right. So that's the bulk of what you guys are going to see next week. You're going to see flow rate questions. You're going to see um, a bunch of different, a lot of the repeat question types that you saw last semester. And, but yeah, someone asked about number 12, so we can look through that. That one. Yep. So with like these, and I'll do 11 and 12, but I'll do 12 first. When we're doing these questions here, they ask you to do an extra thing where they tell you to circle or mark the tubex. So they may not tell you to circle it, might tell you to mark it. I'm going to show you how I would mark it. Um, and then just to kind of clearly indicate. So for number 12, I'm going to take my order, 4,000 units, over my available, 10,000 units, times my quantity, which is milliliters. And I'm going to get 0.4 ml. You don't have to write it here. I just did. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at my tubex and I'm going to make a mark. I should be making a mark here, but I want to double check. So this should be 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, 1. So these are all 0.1 or tenth of a milliliter. So I put a mark here at my 0.4. I don't know if you need to actually circle it. I would just put like a mark there. Okay. So what this is 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. We don't see the 0. Okay. But there would be a space here. It's just that it's whited out. And I would do the same thing up here. Okay. I have 75 milligrams per 50 ml. That comes out to, I think that's 1.5. 75 is the order divided by 50. Yeah, 1.5. Oops, I'm not following my same rules. So 1.5, and then I would make a mark at the 1.5 or 1.5 mark. Yeah. So I think the trick to this too is, and the person that asked this question said, yeah, making it harder than it needs to be. That is usually the culprit for you all as nursing students, is sometimes you do add a little extra level of difficulty that you don't need to do. Some of it is just you have the math anxiety, and you just want to kind of get this done and see how you do. Um, and I guess my approach to dealing with the math anxiety is just to immerse yourself into it and just keep practicing the work. And the more you practice, hopefully you get a little bit more confident in that you know how to set these up, that you're marking it correctly, even if it's like you know the answer. It doesn't matter that you know the answer. I mean, it does for your test, but when you're practicing, it's more about the setup, practicing the setup. Okay. Since we're marking some things, let's do the amoxicillin here. The nice thing also is if they give you a Tubex or a syringe or a cup, the answer is on the Tubex, the syringe, or the cup. Okay. So if you get some weird number, like, like let's say on this one, you ended up getting like, 14 or something like that, or 15 milliliters, something's wrong because that's not even an answer option. Okay. So just pay attention to your answer choices, and that should help you out with that. So let's look at this one. This is one that's considered a two-step because the order's in grams, but the available's in milligrams. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert that by just moving my decimal point over. So 375 milligrams. And then I'm going to take my 375 milligrams over my 125 milligrams times my 5 ml. Make sure your quantity Make sure that quantity is correct. It's not always one. Okay. This is where you can get the difference between 3 or the correct answer, which is 15. Okay. And then it's on the, so I can circle the cup or I can label it. Sometimes they'll tell you to drop the point here. I think when you did this particular question, on Blackboard, your key, like you don't see this part, but like you could drop your point anywhere in this range. Okay. So gives you a little bit of play. But I would just either mark your syringe or mark the cup, circle it. Sometimes they want you to like mark the whole thing. I don't think you need to fill it in, but if you feel like you want to, you can. Okay. This is a couple different ways you can do that. I would say just circle it or mark it otherwise. Um, and then this question on the cephalexin, this one's, you've been doing this since you were probably in high school, just, understanding how to do these medications. Make sure you're reading it. If it tells you twice a day and then it just asks how many capsules, that means per dose. If they write per day, then you need to calculate it for per day. But if it's this, then you would just say 2 capsules. And if they want you to show your work, just write it out, even if you're like, why do I have to write this out? But that's what they're looking for. But a lot of these you can do them in your head. Don't discount that. Just at least write down some information if they're checking you. I don't know. Like I've had students ask me over the years, what are they looking for when they want us to write, write out write out our work or show our work. I don't know how much detail they're looking for. I think they just want to make sure you're not cheating, but I don't know how you'd be cheating by just putting in your information. It's not like the 10 key calculator they give you is going to allow you to cheat, but um this is something that I discussed last semester during the reviews. I told you that sometimes, like if they tell you the order is 2.5 milligrams or 2.5 milligrams and you have 5 milligrams available, this is typically how they want you to write your answer as a half tablet. Okay. But you might want to verify that with your instructor, or if you want, just make sure your answer says like 0.5, which equals 1/2 tablet. Just make sure you have it clearly indicated that you know the answer. I don't know what they want you to do as far as that's concerned. Like if there's a one specific way that I want you to write it, I think it's just making sure you have the information listed. but I do think they want you to write that 1/2, that half tablet for that type of question if they ask it. And then this one, keep in mind, what are they asking for? A lot of times this question gets missed because you write the correct answer in milliliters, but they asked how many teaspoons would you administer? Okay. So 250 over the 125 times the 1 teaspoon equals 2 teaspoons. Remember, even though it says 5 ml, 5 ml is equal to 1 teaspoon, which is why I just interchanged that. All right. You've been doing a really good job of asking questions in the comments. So any other questions, any numbers that you'd like to look at?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Um, so I wasn't here on Tuesday and I printed out the practice set and number 22, I see on your screen, it's not there. And that's the one I kept getting wrong. It's the one Pfizer, 75,000 units or 7,500,000 units. I am stat. Yeah, you don't, I guess it was on whichever one I printed, there was a question about the units. It was an insulin question.
I have it too on mine.
Yeah, I keep getting it wrong. Like I've done it 3 times and
Let me see
you
if I
don't
can
have.
let me see if I can find it. Hold on.
Okay.
You got it from the OneDrive folder, or is it from the nursing department?
It is from the email packet that Miss Edwards sent out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do not have that. I always say that would be great and helpful if I had that, but I do not have it. Can someone email it to me real quick or drop it into the
Yeah,
chat and then I can open it up?
I don't know how to drop things. Can try to email it.
Yeah, I don't have your. Usually you can just drag and drop or just attach it. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know if it allows you to do that or not, but if you email it to me, I can get it. And
Okay.
let me pull up my email real quick.
I
Oh,
just
there it
put it in
is.
the chat, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Birdie. All right, let's see here. Then I can open that up. I think. And I'm going to
Off.
reshare.
This says 15 for that syringe. It says syringe B, regular fifth,
Oh,
regular first, 50 units total. Is that what they mean by what you explained to us earlier? Sorry, I know it's a different question.
yeah,
But,
I need to see it to know. So hold on 1 second.
okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. All right. Were you talking about like the syringe question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
was
so
just
if it
curious about the answer, like what they, because it doesn't have like the key doesn't show the syringe, it just has like a word answer to it.
oh, they probably just want you to tell them what the total is. Is that what it says? What does the question ask?
It's the syringe one, and then it says the answer is syringe B, regular first, 50 units total.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't that sounds like it's an incomplete question if there's no picture of the syringe.
I'm just trying to say what the answer key says on it.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that what I downloaded on the chat, that was just my link of information. I didn't see the that's what I sent out. I didn't see the where you could download the packet. If unless that's all that Professor Edwards sent to you was the here, let me just show you. Is this all that Professor Edwards sent to you?
Can't even see it.
Just
Yes,
with my links. Okay. And then when
but
you
there was something we could. I'm trying to see if I can. I was
Sorry,
able to print it out.
put out the wrong thing.
all
Yeah.
right, hold on. I'm seeing. Okay. There we go. Okay.
No, it
This might
wasn't.
be it. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, that let's just see if this is different than what I'm currently working through. No, this is the same.
I sent one in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the same one? The PDF?
Oh, okay. I see. Okay, let me open this up. I see the difference here. It's this one. All right. So I think you were asking about this Pfizer pen question.
Yes, that's it.
Okay. And then the other, I just want to see if this is, I don't have the 15 unit question, but okay. So I did drop these questions off because I'm slowly trying to get rid of it. Because it's not it's a bad question. It's not that bad. So let me do 21 first, and then I'll go right here to 22 and show you what to look for. Because I did see like even 230, the 230 test still uses these, so that it hasn't been phased out 100% yet. And thank you for being patient. I know trying to figure all these things out. Um, so I think we're all on the same page now with this set that you're looking for. Okay, I see what the differences are because I don't think I posted this as the fall review, but that's okay. So when we're doing this, this is just a the um at Boyce, they do a reconstitution question that I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. That's very different than these. I didn't know what type of reconstitution questions they were looking for, and I'll show you what one looks like, but you won't have it on your test, at least not yet. Maybe next semester we're going to try and phase those in just because it's more realistic as opposed to what this is. So this is the order. I think we're all on the same page about that. Okay. And then it tells us there's three possible concentrations after reconstitution, meaning that if I add a different volume, I can get a different level of concentration. So the trick to this is it tells you to choose oh it says determine the volume in milliliters for the strongest concentration. So the first question is, which is the strongest concentration? Is it 5, 10, or 20 milligrams per milliliter? And then the answer is 20. It's always the highest number per milliliter because you're getting more milligrams per milliliter. And so when you set this question up then is, and I know most of you are fine with this, but I have the 60 milligrams per 20 milligram times my quantity of ml, and that gives me 3 milliliters. Okay. So I think most everyone's okay with that particular question. And thank you again for pointing me into the right direction of these questions because obviously I don't have them in my because I got rid of them. But now here's the tricky one because it adds some extra information. So it tells me my order is 750,000 units. And then it tells me to choose the strongest concentration based off of the choices below. And then where I think most of you are probably getting stuck is you're looking at, well, what do I look at for the strongest concentration? So when we say concentration, we're talking about milligrams per milliliter, units per milliliter, micrograms per milliliter, milliequivalents per milliliter. So when we say concentration, that's what you're looking for. Concentration means it's a liquid suspension that could either be swallowed or injected or delivered via IV. So we're looking for that concentration. We're looking for that um, setup. So I have two things listed here, right? I have milliliters diluent added, and I have these three numbers, and then I have units per milliliter solution. This is the concentration. So I'm going to choose the strongest concentration, which is this 1 million units per milliliter. This just tells you how much liquid was added to get to that concentration. So if I add 18.2 milliliters of water to the powder, this is what I'll get. It's more dilute.
Hmm.
This is mid dilution, and then this is the least diluted. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So I can actually ignore this part of the table, but this is what you would see on the label. So if I pulled up a label of this Pfizer pen, that's what you would see, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a moment. So now that you know what that is, now you just take your order, 750,000 units over the 1 million units. And then you're going to get 0.75 milliliters. And that is your answer. You don't round that. Okay. Does that help now that we're all on the same page of the question? So give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up the images. And I do have these pictures in the Dosage Calc folder. I call it there. It's just titled reconstitution labels. So give me 1 second. I'm going to share. I'll come back to that page there. So if I'm gonna try and rotate this image if it'll let me. Okay, of course it's not gonna let me. If I look over on this aspect, if I could rotate, oh, here we go. Maybe it'll let me do this. There we go. Now I should be able to rotate it. Here we go. So if I take a look at the middle section here, I apologize. This is like wanting to crop, and I don't necessarily want it to crop, but whatever. If I look over here, you see where it says milliliters of diluent added, 20, 10, 4, 1.8. But over here, that tells you the strength. So units per milliliter, 50,000 units per milliliter, 100,000 units per milliliter, 250,000 units per milliliter, 500,000 units per milliliter. The tricky part is which concentration do you use? Okay. That is something that I don't have a definitive answer for to tell you, like you would use that particular which one you would use. It probably just depends on either what's available, how it's mixed, or any number of factors. Okay. So I'm going to show you a different image that they have in the Give me 1 second. Yeah, here we go. Not this one. I want to show you what they use in this might be it. All right. So in this particular question, the way that they get this at Boyce is they will have a question that says, let me pull up my annotation here. They will have a question that says like the order is 250 milligrams of this medication, tazidime, and you want to know, but it's supposed to be injected intramuscular. Okay. But then you look at the label and it just says 500 milligrams. So you might be going, well, what do I do with that 500 milligram information? Because I should be looking for something per ml. That's your clue to look at the label. So there's an extra step here. Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to look for where it says for intramuscular. It tells you how much to add. So it says add 1.5 milliliters. Shake well. We're going to get a total approximate volume of 1.8. But what you're looking for is this right here, where it tells you 280 milligrams per milliliter. That's the strength or the concentration of this particular medication. This is what we would refer to as a reconstitution. Reconstitution just means you're adding liquid to a powder to create a suspension that will then be injected into the patient. Usually it's injected, usually IM or IV. These are not oral medications. Even though it's an antibiotic, it's designed to be IV or IM. Okay. So I know I didn't need to show you that, but I just wanted you to see it just in case it crops up later on, either third or fourth semester. And then that way you can see what that looks like. Stop that. All right, so now that I have the correct label or the correct test, are there any questions on this test that you'd like to work through or see additionally? Number 20? Okay. All right, yeah, so this is I did do this on Tuesday, but we can certainly do this again. So what you're going to do is you're going to take, remember, in order to calculate drop rate, I need flow rate times the drop factor. My flow rate is the 1440 over 12, and then my drop factor is 10. Now, what's crazy is you have this big number, right? 1440 cc's, which is the same thing as ml, over 12 hours. And then I have a drop factor of 10. Now, if you do this as it's set up right now, and you can see I'll cross this out, I'm going to be in drops per hour. So you have to do one additional step. You have to convert hours to minutes. Okay. Now, before I solve this, I'm just going to show you 2 alternative ways to do this. If it's me, I'm just going to take the 1440 ml over the 12 hours. I'm going to reduce it. So 1440 over 12 gives me 120 ml per hour. And I know that an hour is 60 minutes. Then I'm going to multiply by my drop factor. Okay. Or I've had students just go ahead and just convert that to minutes. So 60 times 12, I think that comes out to 720 minutes. So 60 times 12, yeah, 720 minutes. So the other alternative way is you can just write out the 1440 ml over 720 minutes times your drop factor. Just make sure it's in minutes. That's the point of all this. I'm just showing you there's a couple different ways to get there. But no matter how you do this, you'll get 20 drops per minute. All right. So keep practicing, keep reviewing. I was speaking with a boy student that's taking 130, and she's also going through this. She's been practicing the ATI questions and her practice set. That's really what you can be doing to kind of get a good grasp on this material. Now that I have the more up-to-date version of this, just if you have any questions, email me, and then I will answer them for you. I will upload what I marked here onto the OneDrive folder, so that way you have it there as well with my markings, especially for that reconstitution question. And if I don't hear from you, good luck on your test. You're going to do great. Just keep practicing and get it done with, pass it, and then move on to the more difficult things that is your nursing, materials. So, um, I'll hopefully if I hear from you, I'll hear that you passed. So if you feel like you want to, shoot me an email and just say, "Hey, got 100. Thanks a lot." Even if you don't want to thank me, just tell me you got that you passed. And good luck.
Thank you.
You're welcome.